My name is Victor here from I majored in mass communication. I've also taken some studies in photography and digital marketing. I undergo trainings under SITA, Services SITA, as a coach and a mentor. And I've also done skills development training. So I would like us to interact so that we can enjoy the session. I would like to begin by asking you that we're going to have a study today on crisis communication. When there is a crisis, somebody needs to talk in that process, and the person needs to communicate the right way. So we're going to have a session on crisis communication. We start the definitions, crisis management process, the theories related to reputation repair during crisis, and the use of denial in a crisis, where is appropriate and where it's not. I want to begin by asking you that what situation recently, like in the country, do you see as a crisis? I know of two. I have two in mind already.
In which country?
In South Africa. Now
I
you see.
I don't know about it.
Oh, okay. So you are not.
I'm a Ghanaian.
Oh, okay. From Ghana, do you know of any crisis recently?
Yeah, recently we had a crisis. Do you know where I work with? Did they give you my background?
No, I didn't get I just know that you're a top management staff.
Okay. I work with a regulator in Ghana, National Communications Authority.
Yes.
And what happens is that when it comes to crisis, the only person who can speak to issues on this crisis and stuff is the director.
Okay.
What we do is that we provide them necessary information she need to speak to the issue.
So the director is like the communication man.
She's like the mouthpiece
of the organization.
Of the organization. So recently we had one crisis. We actually revoked some licenses from radio stations.
Okay.
You know, there are some radio stations who do not make
Can you, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want you to give me a background of your organization and what you do.
My organization is like ICASA here.
Okay.
Right? You know ICASA?
ICASA?
ICASA, yeah.
No, I'm not sure.
ICASA is here in South Africa. It's like a regulatory company as well.
Okay.
They regulate the telecommunication services here, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we as well regulate the telecommunications industry in Ghana. Like we have Vodafone. Here you have Vodacom.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
we
it's
have
the same company.
We have Tigo. We have Airtel. Now these two companies have merged. So they are one.
Airtel and Tigo.
Yeah, and then we have MTN. You have MTN here too,
That's
right?
True.
Yes. We have Glo, which is not performing so well now, and then Espresso, which I think it has collapsed.
Are they all GSM?
Yes, not GSM. They are. What do you mean by GSM?
There are in those categories of communication companies, there are some that are CDMA, some are mobile. The CDMAs
GSM.
are the landlines.
Yes, GSM. CDMA is Espresso.
Okay.
But they have collapsed.
Most of them have issues.
Yes.
I work in a CDMA company.
Which company is that?
It's in Nigeria.
Are you
It's called
Nigerian?
MTS First.
Oh, okay.
Yes, MTS First.
Why you don't look like a Nigerian? You even speak like a South African.
Well, no, I'm a Nigerian.
Really?
I'm not a South African.
I see. Okay, so basically that's what we do, and then we also offer we give licenses to radio stations.
Okay.
We don't regulate content.
Okay.
That one is for
license them.
Yes, we just license them.
And during the process of licensing, do you check their facilities?
Everything, yes.
Okay.
The technical guys do that before we give them the license. Okay. And we don't do the content section of it. It's the content section is being monitored by the Media Commission.
Okay. I think he might like to talk to you. Is he further is online? Hello, good morning. We are in session. Would you like to talk to her? Okay. She's there.
Hello? You, why? Good morning. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Why? You're not coming again. Yeah, they told me you're indisposed. I can't hear you. You know your credit, so you don't worry. I'll talk to you probably on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
So you, it's okay.
And I need to get your name too.
Tracy, I'm Tracy.
Tracy.
I will give you all that.
Tracy. My name is Victor.
Yeah,
the challenge I have is that we've been working around the clock. We have a project on our hands, and we're trying to make sure that it works nicely, and while giving the best there also. So we've not been sleeping nicely. So
yeah, that's what he told me yesterday.
Little things that we're supposed to do. My assistant is that one that is trying to refresh this morning again. It's just.
So it means you also go back after?
No, I will be here until you finish.
Okay.
You were giving me a background on what you do in CASA.
Yeah, it's just like the CASA, what you do here.
Okay.
And the only thing is that we don't handle the media session when it comes to content. So
just license them and make sure that they have all the facilities.
Yeah, so if someone speaks badly on the radio or something, it has totally nothing to do with that. It will have to be reported to the Media Commission. And with my organization, we have, I am with the Corporate Consumer and Corporate Affairs Division.
Okay.
And I handle complaints. I'm the only one who handles complaints.
Wow.
What happens is that...
That's a big work.
Yeah. When I'm not there, it's being channeled. We have a digital phone. That's phones. We have digital phones.
Okay.
So when I'm not around, it will be channeled to some few people, just 2 people more. And then they will take it. But when I'm there, I'm the only one who takes complaints. And then, aside that, there are other tasks that you'll be assigned to. But my major work description is on complaints.
Okay.
So I came for technical writing, communication skills, and public relations, but I don't really need the public relations side section that much. My concentration is really on the writing. So yesterday we did some few things in it.
Okay.
And the crisis communication, I don't mind anyway. I just need the knowledge anyway. So
it's very important because there comes in the life of every organization when you have to defend and when you have to actually talk about your organization in a way to elude you over some problems. So you were going to tell me about a crisis.
Yes, we recently had a crisis with the media. We license ISPs, that's internet service providers, the telecom session and radio.
Okay.
Right. And then we realized that people were owning the authority, they were not paying. We do everything possible, they don't pay. Wow. So what we decided to do was...
So like people in government? Or...
we don't, it's not... You having a radio station necessarily doesn't mean that you should be in government. Anybody who can meet the requirements has the right, the Ghanaian has the right to get a license to operate a radio. Okay, the spectrum is a scarce commodity. It's a scarce product. So it's for the whole country. So it needs to be managed. You can't say that we are giving it to this person or that person. Apart from those who work there that are not supposed to get it. Anybody who is a Ghanaian that meets the criteria has the right to get a license to operate in radio, ISP, whatever. But it comes with a lot of money. You have to put in a lot of money. People come in for the license and they don't have money to manage the spectrum. So with that, the business it collapses. And when it collapses, we will have to wait for the period that we gave it to them to expire before you can take
it will be redundant in between those periods.
Exactly.
And they might even wonder that why did you license this person?
And what we realize is that when it happens like that to people, they sell the spectrum to someone else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that
because they are owing? Yes, you can do that. You can, based on the documents you bring to us, you have the right to do that. But we realized that lots of them were doing that because they didn't have money to operate the station. So what they do is that when they pile up their fees, then they will just get someone and say, I'm selling my radio station. The person will buy it, and that person will also continue with it and not bother to pay.
Wow.
Yeah, so recently, before I came, we had to switch some of them off. We have to revoke some licenses until they pay. They have 30 days to pay. If not, some will be shut down completely. And it was boom in Ghana.
You start talking, they have the power.
A whole lot. But thank God, we use the social media as an assessment form to assess the issues. We realized that those who were in support were more than those who were against.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that means you are doing the
relaxed. Yes, so we are relaxed actually. And it's good. I'm happy we did that because they take us for granted there. But this time, sure, when you tell them to do it, they will do what exactly you ask them to.
That's true. Because you're giving them reason to take you serious. The crisis that I said I have two in mind in this country that happened recently. Maybe I should just go into one, the one that is most current. The health sector in South Africa is managed by the government, so they regulate everything. But they made a major mistake recently. They have this mental health care department under the health department. So, and they felt like, okay, there is a contract with a health facility that is taking care of mental health patients throughout the country. That company, that health facility, sets people with mental or intellectual disabilities, and they cannot take care of them alone. So they actually, if they get like 100 people, they place them in different facilities that are accredited to work with them, that have all the standards and all those things. So recently, we don't know what happened in the political terrain of the country, but they just terminated the contract. And whilst they were terminating the contract, they did not make good provision to take care of those patients that are in those facilities. So they now say, okay, since you have terminated, some people, when they make mistakes, they will now want to prove that it's not actually a mistake. They will try to crisis manage and say, okay, we want to make sure that people don't think we are fools. So when they terminated the contract, suddenly they now started talking to NGOs that, come, we have some people here that want you to help us to take care of. And most NGOs, they take care of children, maybe somebody that cannot walk nicely, not mental patients. If you are an NGO and you'll be taking care of mentally or intellectual disabled people, then you need to be trained, or maybe the person will be a professional or employ professionals to work with you. But they didn't look at all those criteria of the capacity or the ability of those facilities, the NGOs, to take care of those patients. They just terminated the contract. After terminating the contract, they called NGO and started telling them, okay, you take 20 people for us, you help us take care of them. You take 10 people for us, you help us take care of them. And NGOs, they rely on maybe support from people, well-meaning people, maybe individuals who have the heart of giving to people. So in that process, they distributed the patients, the mentally ill people, all over the country, different NGOs. And most of these NGOs don't have the capacity to take care of them. But because they know that when they were having a briefing with them, they called that project marathon project, because they want to be rapid about it. So during the meeting, they sold the idea to the people that, okay, if you ever take care of these people, we'll pay you so amount per day. And they said the purpose of them terminating that contract was the facility that has been taking care of them for more than 12 years is taking too much, so they want to reduce on budget. because they said the Auditor General complained about the health department, that they are getting too much money and less to show for. So they told these people, okay, we'll give you maybe 200 per day on each patient. So they were eager, NGOs want support, so they felt, okay, if I take more people, then I'll earn so a day, then in a month it will be this, and when I get it, maybe my facility will even be better, I'll be able to do so. Those ones got there, they took those patients, and within 3 months, 118 people, human beings, they died in different NGOs. Some 23 people died, some
here in South Africa.
Here in South Africa. And this happened within 3 months of terminating the contract of that facility. Health facility have been taking care of them for 12 years. Just because some people, and I'm sure underneath it has some political undertone. Maybe somebody was employed by a party, and when government changed, because the government in this state, this province has changed recently. So maybe they are not favoring with them.
How do you do? Zuma is still your president?
Yes, he's the president here, but the state here is
So you have
out.
a president for each state?
No, he's a governor, but they call them premier. So this state, this province, Gauteng, is governed by the premier. So like in Ghana and Nigeria, we have local government. So we have municipalities also here. So those ones are governed by people also. And those people who govern the municipality, they are also like governors over those municipalities. So because the government changed recently, the local government election is always different from when the presidential election takes place. So recently they did the local government election and the provincial government election. So the government changed. It's not ANC that is now governing Twani and the whole of this place. So in between that process, I'm not going to assume here because we don't know what happened, but people died. So, and these people that died, they are not full-fledged members of the society. They are physically disabled people and all of that. So it is more on the emotional side, and the health department looked very incompetent. So it became a crisis. It became a national crisis because people were affected all over the place. Some of these patients were taken from where their family knows that they are, and they were taken to other places, and they did not inform their family that this person was taken from here to here. So it became a crisis, and is an example that I want to give to you concerning crisis and communication during crisis. So on the number 1 of the slide, it says no organization is immune to crisis. The health department, like I gave this example, enter into trouble because the leaders of the department, their HODs and the rest of them, they couldn't look and think nicely before they took action. They just felt, okay, we want to reduce money or whatever their reasons are.
And it has caused a huge problem.
Yeah. And during the hearing, you discover that they did not know that people can die. They just felt like, okay, we want to reduce money, we want to cancel this contract with these people.
So are they going to pay something to the families or?
Is what they are saying, but what happened, the impact is more than money. Because when someone loses a loved one, it's actually a big problem. So exactly what we're doing here, I'll be referring to this scenario often and often to drive on some points so that you can understand, because talking about money also, gratification, it doesn't work on all crisis issues. Because if somebody died and you are not poor, and the relative that died as a result of negligence, you don't need anybody's money. So it will even be an insult to you if somebody offered you money in that process. So we need to just learn as human beings, irrespective of any level we are in the organization, to manage our crisis. So the first slide says no organization is immune to crisis. Can happen to anybody. You know, one thing that comes first to my mind when I was hearing this issue is that that means I can make this kind of mistake. Because sometimes you are working and you feel like, okay, some clients or maybe some service providers need to be dealt with because maybe they are not giving you the services that you want. And most of the time, because of the way we feel, the passion we feel about what to discharge them quickly and all of that. We don't think of how we manage the period between when we discharge this service provider and when we get another one. And we don't usually think of how do I build the kind of relationship I have with this guy, with the new person that I want to employ. So it can happen to anybody. So in any organization, don't think that you can't have crisis. It can happen, and most of the time you may not even see the warning signs. There will be warning signs, but you may not see. The second bullet point says communication matters in a crisis. Imagine when 118 people died, and there was a lady that came to the hearing because they set up an arbitration hearing to hear the case and identify people who made mistakes during that process. A lady came to the hearing and she was being asked about what happened. And in our NGO where she's working, 23 people died. And in the process of being questioned, lawyers will push you to say what you are not supposed to say. Then she went on national TV because it's broadcast live every day. It's going to go on till next week.
Wow.
It's broadcast every day. She went on national TV to say to people that even some family members just come to dump their families in the NGOs without coming to visit them at all. It was a fact, but it was put at the wrong time. You can't say that to somebody that is mourning, someone whose family has died. So if the person's family did not die, maybe it would have been acceptable for you to communicate that way. But the person we are talking about has died. So you can't tell them they are at fault when the deed is done already. So communication matters in a crisis. Somebody needs to know how to talk when you have an issue at hand. Be prepared to communicate effectively in a crisis. That means you should make efforts to learn that, okay, like what we're doing now. If any issues happen, whatever you take from this class, you apply it. You will not go on national TV to say to somebody who has suffered a remarkable loss that you are at fault because you know better. So that we must prepare ourselves to communicate effectively during crisis. So that's the third bullet point. So we're going to definitions. I can give you the slides here if you want them. The definition.
Yeah, my pen drive is with him. So
oh, okay. So you have them on the pen drive.
I don't know if this one I don't know what he has put on the pen drive.
Okay.
But I told him to put everything on the pen drive for me.
I can get it for you.
Okay. And then you put what you are teaching me on it as well.
Yes, I'll give it to you. He even sent them to me from yours, so it's probably there. So the slide is asking us what is a crisis. I don't want to look at this slide, but I just want to see in my own perspective, or maybe I should hear your own perspective. What do you think a crisis is? Like, to me, from my mind, I think a crisis is when something happened, something bad, something negative happens, when you are unprepared for it or when you least expect them to happen. When we say we have a challenge, it's different from a crisis. A crisis is an escalated challenge. It happens, and maybe there is warning sign or not, it has happened. So you are in it. So that's just my definition of a crisis. What definition do you give to a crisis?
Oh, it's just as what you said. Something, the unexpected happens.
And it's negative, and you are not even expecting it at all.
But you have to manage it.
That's well. Because it has happened and you are inside of it, and it's not going away until you have done. So the definition here says perception of an unpredictable event that threatens important expectancies of stakeholders and can seriously impact an organization's performance and generate negative outcome. So the word negative is there. When crisis happens, the negative is there. So, and one thing about crisis is that, or negativity, is that you don't tackle it with negativity. You can't say, no, they dumped their family and that's why they died. So it shows that you are not concerned.
You don't care.
I don't care.
Because they dumped their family.
Because they done.
It should happen. That's
so it should happen. So you can't tackle a crisis with a negative mind. Hence why we are here to learn about how to manage a crisis or communicate in a crisis. The next slide says key aspect of a crisis. Key aspect of a crisis. It says it is unpredictable. Like we said, that it's unexpected. So we cannot say, okay, we'll have. When they were taking that decision, they were taking patients from where they have always been. There's one patient they said had been in the NGO where he died since 1997. The man has a brain damage from birth, so he's 51 years old, but he's at the level of a 9-year-old person. So he's been there since 1997. After a while, when he grew from being a child physically, they took him away from the house because they couldn't take care of him. The families also have their own, go to work and do all this, so they couldn't keep him at home. So they kept him there. They've been taking care of him. He's been okay and fine there. He's living his life there, so they used to visit him. But you know what happened to him? His own was not that they took him from the government facility to save money and put him in an NGO. His own problem that made him to die was that he was in the NGO, and government won the NGO. The NGO can accommodate 37 people. No, the NGO can accommodate 150 people. So the government want them to take 300. So because of the money they will gain, the NGOs will gain. So they felt like, okay, let's discharge these ones that we've been having before. They just want to transfer them away to some other facilities also. We want to talk to some people that please help us manage. We want to take something that will bring us money. These ones we are just doing it for free. So let's take the one that will bring us money. So they now took out of their 150 people that have been inside their facility to accommodate the ones that are coming from government. They sent 73 away. So this man that I said had a brain damage was one of them. So they sent him away to a place where they don't give them water. Water, as common as water is. They are dehydrated. He died of dehydration. No water. And you mean for somebody not to have water, that means the person does not have food. So he got to a stage that his blood level, his sugar level had issues because there was no food. So he now had diabetes. The man that he was not diabetic when he had been in the former NGO. So because no food, no water. So the sister that kept him there said on a day when he visited him before he died, that he brought a 2 liter of Coke, and the man drank everything and was even going to eat serviette, by which she brought some pastries for him. So the situation was so bad and all of that. So it was they did not plan to do all those things. They took one action to take people from somewhere, put them in places, and they died. But that same action now caused some people to take some action also that now caused some problems. The NGO that transfer people to accommodate the people from government wouldn't have done that if the government did not force them to take people from them. So that means it's still that problem that caused by the government that is affecting other people and causing people to die. So it is unpredictable. You cannot anticipate the level that a crisis is going to go or how it's going to happen. So crises violate our constraint, expect an organization to act. Because normally, if I'm an NGO, I have 150 people, I'm full to capacity, I'm not supposed to take more than 150. So if something happened and I now want to take more than 150, that means the reason why I am there, the capacity that I have, I've violated it. I'm not doing the right thing anymore. So crisis, most of the time, it violates how constituents expect an organization to act. Because the family members will not expect that after 18 years that my family has been staying in this place, that somebody because of money will just chase me and he will die. So it does that. Violating expectation creates angry constituents. The family members in this case were angry. Some of them, if you listen to their testimonies, you will almost shed tears because they say things that will just move your emotions. And it says the constituent who will alter how they interact with an organization. That means if my family member died somewhere, I can never, aside that, I cannot recommend that facility for someone to keep their loved ones. I will never say any good things about them. There is one social worker that everybody was mentioning, all the people who lost people. They were mentioning how harsh she was to them. They were saying specific things that she said. One of them said, one day after the husband died, that they now came to get the body. So he was not telling them in the mortuary that, aside that the fact that the mortuary, the place they stored the body, the corpse, was not refrigerated, she was now standing outside telling the woman that is mourning, that has lost her husband because of your carelessness, telling her that you need to be able to identify your husband, or else if you don't identify your husband well, it's your problem. Because me, I can identify him for you. It sounds normal, but not to someone who is in that kind of condition, who is mourning. So it violates and gets people angry. So key aspect of a crisis. Anytime you want to stop me, you can stop me. So the key aspects of a crisis says that crisis is a serious threat that can disrupt organizational operation and has the potential to create negative outcomes. And the first sub point says that negative outcome includes death, injuries, property damage, negative publicity, reputation loss, financial loss, and environmental damage. From the scenario I created, you will see that all these things happened during the crisis because people died. Some people created the crisis and they were doing as if they don't quickly reduce the budget, everything will collapse. They did not know that by then, reducing the budget with the unthinkable will cause the real problem for them. So it created the death. Death happens because of the crisis of moving mentally ill patients all over the place. So there are so many outcomes that can happen during crisis. It's a threat to organizational operation. Some of those NGOs were shut down because of what happened, because of the crisis. They now look into their licenses and discover that this one is not even supposed to be taking care of mentally ill person. You register as a daycare center, NGO, daycare, bring children, take in the morning, take them in the evening. So why will you now put taking care of a mentally ill person permanently inside? So that means you are not licensed for that. So the operation of that NGO was disrupted. They cancelled the license and they shut them down. Many of them were shut down after deaths all over the place. So it does this bullet point is one of the aspects. An organization, the second bullet point says that an organization is in a crisis if key constituents perceive a crisis. During those periods, there are doctors, there are stakeholders in health sector. They were writing letters to the health department that we heard that you want to do this, you want to cancel the contract of these people, that you need to tell us what provision you've made to take care of these people who have been taken care of by this facility that you want to cancel the contract with. People wrote letters to them and were asking them questions, but they felt this one doesn't know what they're saying. We are the one who knows that we are spending too much and we need to reduce our budget. They felt they were saying nothing. So people were perceiving that there is going to be a crisis, but they felt the perception is not. We were very reluctant to listen.
So now what are they doing? Are they going to? Is the government going to?
The government plans to do
take the rest back off.
Like immediately they saw what happened, they've reactivated the contract of the company and they took them back. They have been taken care of, but people have died. People have died. People who have families and are loved by people, they've lost their life in the process. So that's just it. He said, what is crisis management? He says, well, what is crisis management? It is a set of factors designed to combat crisis and to lessen the actual damage inflicted. This bullet point, the way I will explain it is that immediately it happens. The government now called a health ombudsman. There is a professor they call that. Professor, this is the crisis. You are aware about what happened. We want you to investigate what happened. We want you to finger who are responsible for the crisis. We want you to recommend what can be done so that it can never happen again. We want you to tell us what we can do to at least reduce the burden of the loss that the families of the people suffered. And we want you to also tell us what improvement that we can make in the health sector so that this kind of crisis will never happen again. So the health ombudsman as a way of the government as a way of combating what has already happened. They want to get to the root of it so that they can know how to solve it. So the man came up with like a report of like maybe 3,500 pages, and he captured everything there. He interviewed every family of the people that died. He got pictures. He fingered people who were responsible for all those things that happened. He spoke to the facilities and discovered the staffs that were actually very negligent of their duties. He mentioned their name, put it in the report, and all those things. He gathered a lot of things. So government.
Is he a journalist?
No, he is an health ombudsman. You know, this ombudsman, they were appointed. They are professionals in a field, and the government, if you have any issues in that field, you will appoint them, and they will do the ombuds job for you. They will help you to gather reports on everything that has happened, so that you have all the information you need. Then they will make recommendations, and if you follow the recommendation, because of their professionalism and vastness in that field, you will be able to come out of the crisis. So government took that step as a way of managing the crisis, for people to know that at least we are working. They fired some people also, like all those head of departments that did or that said they want to start that project, marathon project. They fired some of them. So the second bullet point says general goals is to prevent or lessen the negative effect of the crisis. So the goal of anybody should be in a crisis is to make sure you prevent or lessen the negative effect of it, because people will lose confidence in the health sector. People will lose confidence in the government because they believe what everybody was saying in the hearing. All of those witnesses, people who lost people, was that the order would have come from above. They were not blaming the people directly, although they hate them, they were angry at them, but they felt like these people are acting under somebody's instruction. So government is getting a confidence problem because of what happened. So that means, while we cannot sack a social worker by vote, we can sack government through elections. And election is in 2019. So it's a problem on the part of the government. That's why they quickly inform the justice and the retired justice of the Supreme Court in the country that, okay, please, you help us to do an arbitration. Call these people together. Let's talk about what happened. Let's punish the people that caused this thing. And let's give them something. Let's pay them some money. Let's give them some support. Some of them, they will be enrolled in counseling. Some of them have been enrolled already. Some of them, they will be provided with support from the government. So those are the steps that government is taking to make sure that the negative effect does not escalate. So those are what they are doing. The top bullet point says crisis management serves to protect constituents, organizations, industries, and environment from harm. If this thing is not properly managed, somebody can go to a health institution where they lost loved ones, go and kill someone. If government didn't do anything, if it appears as if justice is not done, if it appears that we are not concerned about what happened to you, people might want to take laws into their hands. So hence what government is doing. So what government is doing is going to make somebody think, okay, at least they sacked her, at least this one went to jail, at least they paid me, at least they built a house for me, at least they gave me a scholarship. So let me just take it as something that is of faith. So people will not want to take any bad actions. So that bullet point is explained. It says crisis management serves to protect constituents, organizations, industries, and environment from harm. And another thing there that this point is talking about is that, the steps of government will prevent such nonsense from happening again. Because now, when people see that, okay, if you are negligent about your duty and somebody died, you'll be sacked and you'll be charged to court and you'll be sentenced and all those things. So they will be careful in their own work too. Maybe there are still some hospitals where they treat people anyhow. They know that in this period, the country is not in the mood to accept nonsense, and therefore they will take care of people better than the way they have been doing it before. So it actually will protect some constituents, like the healthcare users that are going to hospitals will be protected from harm. Crisis management as a process That's a new slide. It says the set of factors that form a process. The crisis management process can be divided into three parts: pre-crisis, crisis event, and post-crisis. These are the stages in crisis management. When there is a crisis, the pre-crisis is that in your organization, do you have a format to handle crisis? So that means that stage you need to have something that, okay, one day, if all the radio stations that we are licensing, if all of them are in a position that we must revoke all their licenses and people must listen to your radio in the country, what do we do? What plan is on ground that this is how we are going to manage it, yet we'll still get our result? Like, if there is a problem on ground that they are not paying anymore, anyone, all of them, they don't want to pay anymore, how do we handle that without jeopardizing sometimes if you don't have this kind of a plan and your job says that you must make sure that people pay, then you may be acting within that job description and shut down all the radio stations in the country. Then we have a crisis. People will think you are the bad person, but you are doing your job and they are negligent of their duty. But because people lose some services, they cannot hear their early morning drive radio station or program, their loved DJ is not playing to them, they will think you are the one that has a problem. So if you have a plan already, you know that, okay, in this plan, if we have a situation where everybody is not doing their obligations among our clients, the people that we serve, then we cannot shut them down. The plan we will have is to make sure that maybe you involve law, you take them to court, but they are still operating. You make sure there are other ways that you can deal with it. You don't use only the book, but you consider what the effect will be if you use the book. So when you consider what the effect will be when you use the book, then you have a set of rules to deal with them apart from what the book says. So those are the crises. And during crisis, we've been talking about government setting up an arbitration hearing to manage the crisis. So you must also have a plan. A process must be on ground that, okay, if I have a problem, how do I solve it? So do I go to lawyers to write to these people to make sure that they do what they need to do? So, and after resolving the problem, maybe you are able to get all the money from them after taking them to court and all this without shutting them down or revoking their licenses. Then after the crisis, you make sure that, okay, maybe because we were not visiting these people, that's why they hold in the first place. Then you set up post-crisis to make sure that, okay, this doesn't happen again. Let's be visiting these people. Let's be asking them to do their, let's be sending them messages that, okay, the social payment is due for this thing, maybe a week before when it's due, and all those things like that. So those are three processes. There is a slide that illustrates them with a round pictures. So pre-crisis, post-crisis, and it ends. It is actually in a cycle, a crisis event in itself. So pre-crisis phase, just like I've explained, emphasizes prevention and preparation. Like, what do we do so that we won't have this situation? So those are the pre-crisis period. Identify and act on warning signs. So when you see that, okay, people are writing letters to me that people you cannot do this without preparing well. The health department where they receive letters from people that if you want to take away people from a place, you want to cancel a contract, you must have a solid arrangement on ground. Those are warning signs. So you cannot ignore those kind of warning signs. So those are preface that you need to just act upon. Prepare to manage the crisis also, that in case, okay, like if they had planned that, okay, this thing that we want to do can lead to problem, maybe they would have sought other health facilities that deals with mental health patients, and they would have made arrangements before they started to transfer people to NGOs. Maybe they would have tried to go to each NGO and say, what can you do? What do you do in this place? Maybe they would have found out that this one cannot take care of a mentally ill person. Maybe they would have found out that this one is only daycare, so this one cannot house people. So, but they did not make all those findings. They just transfer people there, and people died. And one family member was even complaining that if she visited her brother, the man with the brain damage. I visited my brother one day, and inside the ward, it was like oven. It was too hot. You know, winter in South Africa is always very cold. But that does not mean that the weather will still be cold at 2 p.m. That means somebody should regulate the ventilator. So you can't say, okay, because it is winter, it's cold at night, then even in the afternoon when there is sunshine, then you must still put on the air conditioner and set it at hot and the highest regulator. So they didn't do all those things, so it became a problem. So prepare to manage the crisis. Develop and test crisis management plan. You must have a crisis management plan as an organization. So you must develop one for your own organization as a result of this training, so that at least if there is an issue, you know how to manage it. If in case you have requests for licenses more than the capacity that you have, what other organizations can assist? Which organization can help me to take some of this workflow process to reduce the kind of problems that I have? I don't know if you have any questions so far. So it says select and train crisis management team. Select and train crisis spokesperson. Like in your organization that the director is the one talking, there must be people also. Like one of you guys that provide him with information that he gives to people must be able to speak in his absence, because there might be situations and circumstances that he will not be available. God forbid that something happens to him, his health deteriorated, and he's the only one who can speak. Nobody is trained in the aspect of knowing what to say to the media and what not to say to the media. Then it becomes another crisis in between the crisis. So there must be other people that will be trained. There must be a team. I know there is a team already with what you told me concerning crisis management. Because if you are the one giving him the information, you are the team that can manage crisis in the organization, because you'll be able to speak. But another person must be able to be a spokesperson aside the director. So that must be a plan in place that I would make as a recommendation. A crisis management plan is the next slide. He says it's a rough guide, not step by step how to, but it's a rough guide of how to manage crisis. Excuse me. You know, it's just exactly what we just discussed, that there must be something in place that, okay, this problem has not happened, but it can happen. It's possible that we have this challenge, so there must be a plan in place. CMP. There must be a CMP in place, crisis management plan in place. Has no value or less tested, update regularly. That is a crisis management plan may not actually be valuable until you test it. So most of the time, some people simulate. In Nigeria, there is a program called the NYSC, National Youth Service Corps. They go for 1 year training after your graduation from school. So you serve the country for 1 year, they post you anyway. So during that process, they are trying to make people to act what they will go and do in the labor market. They want you to practice. You have been trained, you said you have BSc in mass communication, then go for 1 year. Not real employment. Go and broadcast, go and write news, go and do public relation and all those things that are involved in mass communication. Go and hack jam. Do it before we now get you into the industry to go and represent us. So the crisis management plan also, you can simulate it. You can say, okay, I want to, you are my team in this department, and I want to see how you will handle if we have maybe a request more than what we usually have. And you usually may be having a time when you answer to requests from people. So if you have more than what your capacity can carry, that means the time will be affected. But you want to be able to serve people under the same time. That means you must do something extraordinary from what you have been doing. So there must be a plan that, okay, if we have a problem, let's say out of 8 staffs in our department, 7 of them are sick one day, they cannot come, or maybe they went to a function or to an assignment together and there was an accident. They did not die, but they cannot work, and we need to do our job as a department. Then which other department can we take people from? So maybe inside this crisis management plan, then you would have, okay, on one Saturday when you are not working, that please The operations department, I need 3 people from your department. I want to train how to do this job in case my staff have issues and they cannot come to work. I want to train them. You won't train them on the nitty-gritty, like the most important part of that job, but at least you know that, okay, if I have any issues, these ones, they know little about, so I will just be putting them through. I'll just be putting them through, so in case we have crisis. So it's part of your plan. So it's part of simulating, testing it before you actually need it. And you may never need it. It's just that you are not leaving yourself without guard. And update regularly. See that, okay, somebody who's this plan that I've tried to draft has happened to in real life. Somebody has this kind of problem. How did they resolve it? Did they do something different from what I have on my paper? So if you see that, okay, it actually happened there and they did something different, so you need to put what they did together with what you have put down as a plan also. So it's part of it. Crisis event phase, like this in the middle. We say we have a pre-crisis, which we just stepped to. So we are in the middle of the crisis. So organization experiences a crisis. Crisis team is mobilized. CMP is used as a guide, that is the crisis management plan. Organization responds to crisis through words and actions, part of crisis communication. All those things that we have been planning in the pre-crisis that we made provision for. Let's say now it happened. Out of 8 staff, 7 cannot come to work. Then you go back to operations now. Please, give me Daniel, give me Rachel, give me Victor, give me all these staffs, Richard, that I've trained that in case I have problem, that they may be able to help me. So you go to operations. I now have an issue. You are aware that these people have issues. They couldn't make it to work. And okay, the person will now be able to assist you because you have a plan on ground that under emergencies, this person has 16 staff. So for me to ask for 5 is not going to be a problem. So you may be able to withdraw. There are people doing the same duty, maybe 2 doing the same duty, one, and all of that. So you'll be able to use them in your department pending while you resolve your own issues with your department. So this is what this slide talks about. And we go to post-crisis. Return to business as usual. Provide updates to constituents. Evaluate the crisis management effort. After the crisis, then we make sure that, okay, like, I told you that the contract they cancelled, they now restored it. So they now took people back to safe places where they don't have issues. And because of what has happened, they now went to all those NGOs, the people who are there that is not under government before. Governments now, they know that anything that happens now, people will talk against them. They now say, okay, you are taking care of somebody that is mentally ill, but you don't have facility. They are now withdrawing them and putting them in to make sure that, yes, to put them in the right place so that they won't die again and to become a problem. So they are now doing the right thing so that things can be normal. So after they sack some people, they put new people who understand what the job is. And when it comes to health, when it comes to some services like security services, health, and all those, forgotten the English to use for, they are very essential services. You can't go on strike as a policeman. If the police force has gone on strike, that means criminals will take over and they will kill everybody, take care of the belongings and all those things. So you must now make sure, okay, this service must be restored. So in between the crisis, you make sure people are still getting what they're supposed to get. There was one of these NGOs that after they shut it down, these patients were there for days. No nurse, no cook, no security. They sack the place, but the patients are inside. So why would they not die? If somebody that has mental problem, why can't the person take knife from the kitchen and go and deal another? So because they said there are bruises on the body of some of them that died. So maybe some of them will just commit suicide. They don't know what they are doing. They are crazy, and there's nobody that can hold them, help them. So all those things that happen. So the service must return. Business must continue as usual. So after the crisis, you make sure that, okay, people are still getting health services. If you're having a crisis, you have overcome it. Then you don't let your crisis stop you from doing what you're supposed to do. So the second bullet point says provide updates to constituents. So that's when, some of these people, before this hearing, they don't know what happened to their family. They just know they died. They did not know they had dehydration. They did not get medication. They did not get food. One lady said he brought food to her brother, and while trying to open the food, a small girl came from inside that NGO and ran and took the food and stuffed it in her mouth and was eating it with even the serviette by which is served. So that means that small girl has not eaten for days. It's not one day. It couldn't have been one day hunger that would make somebody to want to eat serviette with the food. So it's an issue. So during this hearing was when people were now telling people that this is what happened to this person. This is how he died. Some of them were buried in places that the family does not know.
Because they buried them?
Yeah, they buried some of them. Some of these NGOs, they don't have much. Since they don't, some of them are taking care of children, so you took adults and they died. So how do you deal with it? So you have to quickly bury them or go and pay, and they don't have money. So how will they pay to store the body in the mortuary? And so the government mortuary, because of the crisis, is full. The mortuary is full. People have died. So many people. A facility that has the facility to store 3 bodies, then 10, 20 people died. Where would they keep the rest of the body? To the extent that people died and they put them on wheelchair and put them in one room where other people who have not died are inside. Somebody is alive, but they put a dead man here, and for more than 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, the dead body is there. That's wicked. It's not. So people are now getting to know about all these things. What really happened. Even the government, the people who are in the political side of the government, they did not know that somebody is doing all this nonsense. So it's during this hearing that they are now hearing that. So this one decided to go to jail. It's not suspension. So they are now taking them to court afresh. They suspended some of them, so now they are taking them to court. It's like, okay, you need to go to jail for what you did. It's not just small. One of the directors in the health department has a mortuary. So people were even suspecting that maybe they did all this so that he can sell, so that he can have customers for his business. Because immediately people died, he now collected 20,000 rents to store the bodies in his own facility. People died, it was your decision that killed them. So, and you have a separate business from the government employment. You are now taking the people as business and making money for yourself from a crisis that you cause, human life for that matter. So people get to know of all this nonsense during the hearing. So you must provide updates for the constituency during the crisis, after the crisis, and evaluate the crisis management effort. Like this public hearing that is going on, immediately after there will be a report, and the recommendations must be followed. If they say, okay, each family, because the lawyers came with different names. Some are representing 55 people, one lawyer is representing 3 people, some lawyers are representing like 2,000 people who have even died before this period. They went to some law firms that are pro bono, that are doing a fee, and said, this thing has happened to us before, but because this one happened, they did not remember us that has happened to before. So the numbers is now meant. So during the evaluation of the crisis management, so we will now know, okay, these 2,000, are we going to pay them also with the new people? So okay, and during the evaluation of the crisis management, you'll be able to know, okay, did we put measures in place that this nonsense will not happen again? Then you make sure that maybe during the evaluation you put a law that, okay, if the health department want to take a decision about movement of patients in numbers, henceforth it must pass through the office of the premier, that is the governor of the state or the president, so that they will know that I can't tell president that I want to do this nonsense. They can take decision. That's why they took it, and the boomerang became a crisis. So maybe during evaluation, they will now say, okay, what causes it? She's not reporting to anyone. She can do what she likes. Then now you must report to this person if you want to do this. Then this person they report to must also report to this person before you can accredit or sign off on what this person wants to do. So when there is more than one line of report on that, it will prevent somebody doing nonsense. So you must have thought through of what you want to do before you present it to more than one person. It says crisis management lessons. Preparation. When it happened, they were not prepared. They just canceled contract. After they canceled, they now thought, where will we put them? Yeah, we've canceled. So they now went to NGOs. No preparation. They are crazy. Pardon me to say that. Point two, say communication channels. How do you want to address this? Are you going to have a press conference? It's going to be an emotional issue. So if you are going to have a press conference, are you inviting the TV where they will show people crying? Where they will show that, as a result of this person losing people, he's not dressing nicely again, and all those things. So you must decide which communication channels that you want to use for those kind of things. Spokesperson training. Who will talk when we have a problem? Who is the person that will talk? Aside the director in your own case, like, okay, who else can talk? Initial crisis response. What is the first point of our response when we have a problem? What do we do first? Do we talk to the public first or talk to the direct people that are affected in the crisis? And reputation repair. So this has happened now. The government of these states now, what they are now doing is to take everything serious. I said they were now going to NGOs and taking people from them and say, okay, you are not in the right place, let's be taking care of you here. This person is not being treated nicely. So they are now repairing their reputation that, okay, we are not as bad as you thought we are. So this is what we are doing. Some of the plans of the government includes that they will give accommodations to families and loved ones and doesn't have nice houses to stay and all those things and pay some of them money. So it is a way of repairing the reputation. Then maybe they will go on TV and do some promos about are you visiting your mentally ill family and loved ones in their NGOs or in the government facilities where they are staying. Maybe they will do a newspaper advertisement to tell people that when you have a family and a loved one somewhere, then you must put your contact details in those facilities so that in case of movement or any crisis, they can contact you. Because some of the excuses that these people, the health officials were giving is that when they want to move the people to the locations where they died, they don't have any contact of their families. And when they died and they want to bury them, they don't have contact of their families. So maybe the government will now, in a way of repairing their image, will say, okay, this is what we want you to be doing so that next time we will never have this again, but in order not for us to have it, be visiting your family twice in a month. And it's compulsory for all families of people who have mental disabilities that are staying in our hospitals. So it will be, maybe a form will be drafted that, okay, you are bringing that government will be taking care of this person for you. Then you will sign that I will be visiting my brother or sister or daughter or son or whomever the family member is twice in a month. And I pledge that if I cannot come, my wife will come. I pledge that if I cannot come myself, I will make a call ahead of the time that I'm supposed to come. So those are how to manage it. So preparation improves. Yeah. This one is talking about, this slide is talking about preparation. We're almost at 11, we are not far. It's a preparation improves.
So, can I get a sample of the CMP policy here?
I can get that for you, but not immediately. We don't have it here. Right.
Can you get it for me tomorrow?
I'm not sure. Because, but by Saturday you should get it.
What time? I'll be leaving at 12.
Don't worry, you get it in your email this time.
No, put them on the pen drive for me.
Oh, okay. Alright. I'll do that. Preparation improves.
You don't forget it.
Oh, I won't forget. Let me note it. So, preparation plans improve speed and effectiveness in crisis response. You should have CMP and crisis team. You should have a crisis management plan and a crisis team. Exercise need to test and refine your CMP and crisis team. If you look at what other people did during having such an event, then you'll be able to improve and refine it. Redraft messages you know you might need. Redraft it. Look, what will be the consequence of what I said I would say if there is a problem like this. If there is a problem like this, I propose to say to the families that you too, you are guilty, you are dumping your families. You must redraft that kind of message to say, okay, we accept, we take responsibility for what has happened, and we regret it a lot, and we pray, or we are taking steps that will never repeat itself again. And one of those steps is that we want to request that families of the disabled people must also be visiting. So when you put it like that, you are still saying to them that they are dumping, that they are not visiting. Because if you are telling them that now they must visit, that means they've not been visiting. So, but you didn't put it in an uncaring way, so we must reject that kind of message. Exercises and pre-drafted messages allow for a quicker response. So if you have known how this kind of message works, you simulate it during a session with your team, you've acted it out, and you ask for their honest opinion. How do you feel? Somebody tells you this, and they would have told you that, don't say that, because I don't feel nicely about that kind of a thing. If I'm in that kind of a circumstance or situation. Communication channels, websites should be used. Create dark sites. Dark sites, there are all these websites that it will take you. You need some permissions. You know, when some people want to browse a pornographic site, they will say, are you 18 years? Then they will say yes. Are you this one? They will say yes. Then before they are now allowed to the main site. So you must create dark sites, like a site where, okay, maybe you want to put photographs of people who have died in the health department's crisis, so that they said they have some bodies, like 7 people who died during these things that they don't even know their family. They are still in the mortuarity today. Nobody knows them. So maybe now I want to say, okay, let's put the pictures on sites so that family members who cannot find their loved ones can check. Maybe it's the people. So that kind of dark site, maybe you now create maybe a password or something for any family members that must have registered before. So when they want to look at it, put the password so they can go in and check the picture. So it's not the wrong people that are checking. It's not that children will be seeing dead bodies. You get all those. So separate website or linked from homepage. So maybe on the Department of Health website, you now create a link. Family of deceased. They said the name of the facility is Life Accident, so they cannot put a new link that family of the deceased life accident patients. So if somebody click it, they can get information about the names of people who have died. Maybe the names of the person they are looking for is there, and they'll be able to claim the body. So intranet is like all these Lotus mail, all those communication between your company, those mails that doesn't go outside that you have. So you use that one to communicate to people that send maybe a mail to everybody. This time, don't accept press interview. Don't speak to your wife when you get at home about this problem, because we don't want a third party to know about what is happening here. So intranet is useful for employees, so you'll be able to communicate with staff on the standard of what you want that it should happen. Let's say it's a bottling company that is producing a soft beverage for people. Then people died consuming one batch of production. So you must use all these means of communication to tell people that don't let them hear it from you. Don't let your social media create and spread this kind of messages. So mass notification system help reach constituents. Like you can send bulk SMSs. Can communicate on your social media and other means with which you can reach many people during the crisis. Spokesperson training, media training for anyone who might speak during a crisis. Avoid no comment. You can't say, we heard that
as a result of your negligence, 20 people died. And the person said to the pressman, they will feel like this one is crazy. That means he's guilty. You see here, the bullet point says no comment. People hear guilty. When you say that, no comment, they say, he's a thief.
Yeah.
He's stealing. When they're accusing you that money is missing in your department, so the press are now asking you that, what is your view of what the accusation? I say no comment. They will say, he's a thief. He's the one who stole it. He just doesn't want to say. So you avoid no comment. Avoid speculation. You could be wrong. Don't say things that you are not sure of. Avoid jargons or technical language that can create confusion. Don't start using English that is only people in your department that understand. When you want to address people who are not working in your department, you are serving the clients and you can't be telling them what they cannot understand in the first place. Say fully grievous spokesperson. Like we have more than one people now that we have assigned that, okay, you are the one that will respond to people. You are dealing with email. You are dealing with physical interviews. You are dealing with the press. You are doing public relations for us. You need to brief them. This and this, we won't go there. Even if they ask you a question in this way, you must not answer. You find a way to do as if you don't understand, so you won't answer. So when you brief them, you'll be able to give them those information. Avoid markers of deception, such as lack of eye contact. Like the white people, they believe in, when we're speaking, we are looking at ourselves. So, but although in West Africa, it's a sign of disrespect for us, because there are an elderly person speaking, you are looking at them, say, this one is a rude person. But if you are also having a crisis and you want to address the press and you are looking down, it shows that this one is deceiving us, is not saying the truth. Initial crisis response. First set of messages in a crisis. Be quick. Those things that we discussed about. He went on and on. Instructing information. Tell people how to protect themselves from the dangers posed by the crisis. Like instructing information. If, like what happened in Mexico, like 3 weeks ago, I'm not sure if they've even removed all the people from under the collapsed building. They have an earthquake, so, and a place where children at a school was affected. So the government were exposed that they have a crisis, because if it were to be America, they would bring out machines, they would lift the rubble. But these people are using manual tools. They are using digger. They are using shovel. They are using the normal thing that everybody used to dig. That means there is a crisis. So in that kind of a thing, maybe you tell people ahead that since we don't have equipment to remove people on that building that are collapsed, immediately you see any shake, run outside the house. Don't stay in the house. In this area, we map this area that this is probably there will be an earthquake also in this area. There is a way they do all this, what they call it, this geology about what could have happened in the place. Maybe geologists now discover that, okay, another earthquake will happen in the place. Tell people, don't stay in this area anymore. Provide places for them that, okay, go to these places. Don't stay here. There is likely to be another earthquake in this area. So we must be able to give instructing information to people during crisis. Like this one is even saying something like what I'm using as an example. Says includes evacuation, shelter in place, or like in Nigeria when the Boko Haram insurgents were killing people, they create small shelters for people who flee their state, so they can stay, they live, but they don't have proper houses, but at least they have shelter, they have food, they have health care. So adjusting information says helps people to cope psychologically with the crisis. Adjusting information. You go to the media, we rescued a girl from 5th floor under the rubbles overnight, and we are making effort. There is sound of another person. We are communicating with them. We are going to bring them out so that at least people will be like, okay, they're managing it. Let's hope that they will be able to solve our problem. The reputation repair. After what has happened in Mexico, the government needs to start buying equipment for emergency situations. and make it open. We are importing this from America, so that what happened before will not happen. So they will know that okay, it's a responsible government. They are not happy about us losing our people to that collapse. So they are trying to do something about it. 4 research areas of crisis reputation repair. He says corporate apologia, image restoration. 4 research areas of crisis reputation repair. The corporate apologia, image restoration theory, rhetoric of renewal, situational crisis communication theory. The 4 research areas. We start with corporate apologia. It says crisis threatens. Sorry, I want to finish before our break time.
That's fine, I understand.
The corporate apologia threatens. The crisis threatens social legitimacy because an organizations appear to be incompetent. So you might want to take care of that, so that like me now, I'm afraid to go to an hospital in South Africa now because they will give me a wrong injection. Because of what happened. How can any normal human being treat human being like the way they treat people? They said during the winter there were some of the patients, these mentally ill people that are walking naked. And winter here is not a joke. Even when you are wearing your 4 clothes or 5 clothes, you are still drinking coffee, making sure that you are warm. So how can you now leave a human being like you because it's not okay upstairs to be walking naked during winter? That means you want to kill the person. So it threatens people's confidence in you. So you need to just take care of that aspect. Corporate apologia, crisis response strategies, denial of any wrongdoing, counter-attack, differentiation, apology, legal, like all these things that these people are doing. The government of outing, they are denying some of those things that they didn't give. Like the office of the premier now is saying that he's not aware that they are moving people, so that they will not put it on his table that he's the one. Counter-attack is that he fired all those staff that did all those things. Okay, you are the one who caused it. You get out of my government. So differentiation of the organization are tending to distance. You know, the way they are not talking like religious people. Some of them are crying on TV. How will I know that it will happen and I will do it? I can't know and do it. But that doesn't mean they did not know. But it's a crisis management strategy that they are using. The last one says legal. I said they are having an arbitration hearing to talk and say, okay, this one is the cause. So the government is now doing as if not the cause of the problem. They are the one who set up the arbitration. It's the government's justice that is heading the arbitration hearing. So, but it's just a way of managing crisis. So when we have such an issue, we must have all those things on ground also. Because you have an organization that must not die. So that you have a problem does not mean you should die with the problem. You must find a way of you must get out of all this. Image restoration theory is one of the research area also. So communication goal is directed. One goal of communication is to protect one's reputation. Because you want to restore your image, you must do things that maybe you start doing adverts and sharing things to people, jotters that the cover of the jotter will now be talking about call this line when they don't attend to you nicely in the hospital. So they are working, they've come back to their senses. I have to do all those and the renewal. The last one says situational crisis communication theory combines elements of rhetorical approaches to crisis communication with Wiener's 2006 conceptualization of attribution theory. Attribution theory here says people set for causes of negative and unexpected events. That's why they set up this hearing that they are having to know what really causes and to prevent it from happening again. Application to crisis. So how do we resolve it when it happens? We've spoken about all those things also. Spoken about SCCT and assessing the reputation threat. 2 steps process. Step 1, identify the crisis, how crisis is being framed. When you know, okay, this is the problem, then this is how we deal with it. So the government chooses that, okay, we'll pay the family and development, but we must first give them opportunity to talk about their pains, how they were treated. Most of all the pains that we suffer in life they are half soft when we are able to share it with people that will just sit down and listen and cry with us. They don't want to offer any advice. They just want to listen to what we want to say. Then you feel very relaxed. Instead of talking to somebody that will say, you should have done this. This is what you need to do. But most of the time, we feel better when we just talk. And the person listens, cry with us, rub our shoulder, and ask us, what do you think you want to do now? How do you think you can get better? We feel better if we have that opportunity. Victim crisis, natural disasters, rumors, workplace violence, product tampering, violence. Natural disasters like the type of the earthquake I spoke about. Rumors may be that government is planning to sack 500 workers in December. It becomes a problem because people were not carrying placard and saying, we are fighting that we must not be sacked. Well, it's just a rumor. Workplace violence, like maybe a former employee just came into the workplace, shot another employee. That happens in South Africa all the time.
Yes,
a lot of gold. It's a very dangerous one. Product tampering, like I said, maybe a bottling company produce one day and the whole batch for the afternoon batch is killing people or making them to go to toilet. So, although you want to withdraw the product from the market, but how do you make sure that people are not afraid to drink again from your company? So, accidental challenges, stakeholders, technical errors. Once that happens by accident, maybe something poured into the production, and that's why maybe oil fell during the production and you can't throw it away. They felt they cannot throw it away and the package that people are now not sitting and going to toilet. So, preventable crisis, human error accident, industrial accident caused by human error. Human error product, like there was a time in Nigeria a plastic industry, let me not call it industry, a plastic, how do I call it? A company that is producing different plastic products. The Chinese man that owns it, anytime they are closing at night, because those guys will work overnight and it feels like, okay, casual worker steals, you will now lock them, lock the building, they hold the doors and go. And one day there is fire and all of them died inside. Everyone, no one escaped. All the staffs, they died. The whole building burnt. So that one is preventable. It's preventable. You would have had security outside and give them the key in case of anything. They keep. But he felt they like money too much than people's lives. Assessing the reputational threat. What will this do to you? What will this kind of crisis do to you? So, yes. Crisis response strategies in SCT. Cautions: do not automatically use the most accommodative strategies. Don't use the strategy that says, okay, I'm responsible, I'm the one who did everything. At least use a crisis management strategy that will still put the blame some other places, so that they won't say you are the cause of everything, then you are incompetent, then your organization does not deserve any more patronage and other things like that. All the recommendations, I think you can tackle those ones. Research is deceptive, only effective if no evidence contradicts it. If evidence does suggest guilt, using denial wasn't the crisis threat. Like when it's already known that the health department is responsible for all what is happening, they are now denying that. So it's not going to work. So even if you were in the hearing, if it's on YouTube, if you listen to it, you will see that they are always apologizing. We are sorry. We are working on making sure that people are punished for it. Although they are just punishing the official. Everything is government that did it. It's just the official that is doing. But don't choose a strategy that will say, okay, although we are the one who caused it and we are you are not punishing anybody, you are just taking all the blame. So choose a strategy that will say, okay, we are sorry for what happened, but our law says that people must not let people die under their care, and therefore the person that does it is going, because we didn't tell them to kill people. So choose that kind of strategy that will say, okay, after you chase somebody away, they will still be confident to bring more people to you or come and do business with you afterwards. That thing fell on a shift of people who are careless and will sack all of them. You will never have this kind of crisis again because you can't see those people in our organization again. Now people will still be able to drink this water and say, okay, we are not going to start have a running stomach after drinking because they sacked everybody that caused that crisis that happened. Reflection point. What are the arguments for and against partial closure? One of the points they were making is that people must get closure concerning what happened to their loved ones. Some of them don't know where they buried them. The closure for that person would be, they buried this person in Mamelodi. He's one of the suburbs along the side. Okay, show me where. This is the place. Sorry about what happened. They sacked all those people that caused it. It's never going to happen again. Take 1 million and we build a house for you here. So the person will be resting that, okay, I know where the person died. I know how he died. And I've been compensated. Those who caused it have gone to jail. So it gives closure. Partially, because you can't use money or any compensation or any explanation to erase pains from inside people. What are the arguments for and against the full closure? What are those things that we can say, okay, this is why it happened and this is why it's unacceptable that it happened, because maybe this boss is supposed to make sure that this one doesn't do what he or she likes. So those arguments you put them in your reflection points after the crisis. Why does partial disclosure raise questions of ethics? Because if you don't get to the root of things and really go to the end of it, people will start doubting the health sector. That it's like there is none of them that knows what to do, since they did not really get to the root of it. So that means none of them knows what to do. So now we cannot trust them with our lives anymore. Maybe they will not be traveling to Zimbabwe to treat small illnesses like flu and all those things. So we must have full closure concerning whatever it is that is a crisis. We must talk about it, get to the root of it, so that people can be assured that it won't happen again. Reflection point also goes, why is transparency relevant to the crisis response? You must be transparent, like what the legal team or representing the government, when the head of that team was saying is that they are going to assist to make sure that nobody is lying here. So by doing that, people are now trusting government. During that hearing, if you see the food they are serving, nice meals, you eat in the morning, early in the morning before the proceeding commence. You put pastries, different kind of pastries. You put burger, tea, coffee, tea break, you eat the same thing. The full course meal the third time. And they are paying their transport, so all the family members that are coming to the hearing. And they are saying the truth. The government is now punishing people who are responsible and bringing them. So that kind of a thing, if you are transparent, people will be able to. It's one of the reflection points that. And the last slide says in the reflection point, is crisis management too corporate centric? How can crisis management be too rational? Should more attention be given to constituent concerns and crises as opposed to a focus on organizational concern? That last bullet point is trying to tell us that when you are managing your crisis, are you only supposed to think about yourself, that myself. It's only, I don't want my name to be damaged, I don't want my name to, or you will say, okay, even if my name is damaged, I must also attend to these people. So the government is partially doing that in this case that I use as a scenario, because they are accepting the blames and sacking the respective staffs or the responsible staffs for those things. And partially they are using that medium to also say that, okay, it's this one that is not doing what we ask them to do. We have a good standard that should not have allowed that to happen. So, but this staff is the one who went wrong. So they are not, this one is asking on that reflection point that you should think about, should more attention be given to constituent concerns like the concerns of the people who are affected in the crisis? Or should you just focus on my organization's name must not be damaged again? So you need to think about it and you put it as one of the crisis management plans, CMP.
Thank you. So we are done.
Thank you, yes. Sir.
Okay.
If you have any questions, let's tackle it before we went to break. Okay, thank you so much.